Hello, everybody. It's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. Thank you so much for joining us on our special series all about animal stories. We are in the fourth week of summer reading program, Tales and Tales. And we've had such a good time so far picking recommendations for everybody. We've thus covered family-friendly films and books. We covered scary stories of animals attacking. Just last week, we did laugh out loud worthy comedies. And this week, we are all about the adventure. So these picks are all going to be adventure stories, quests, journeys, stories that are definitely going to get your pulse pounding in places that are thrilling, exciting, and are for the most part really friendly for viewers of all ages. Now, your mileage may vary. If you have a young viewer who's very easily frightened or very easily scared, you may want to double check that they're going to be okay during these, but I picked titles that are all PG-13 or below, so, take that as you will. These picks are a little different from our Film Rec Fridays. These are not necessarily digital picks, but you can get all of them through the CleveNet service. So if you find a movie that sounds interesting or a book, just place a hold on it and it will come directly to you. As always, these are all available entirely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card. And with that, I am going to jump right in to the Recs. I am going to kick things off with a massive pick that was based on a huge book by Michael Crichton that launched this ever expanding movie series, and that is, of course, Jurassic Park. Now, I feel like everybody who was alive during the 90s at the very least has seen this movie, but if you haven't seen it in a while, if you've never seen it at all, if you have kids who haven't seen it, this is one of those movie magic gems. I mean, Spielberg totally hit the nail on the head. He was able to grab onto that little piece of us, I think, that thinks about dinosaurs in a way that is almost like magic and brings it totally to life on screen. There's so much excitement when you watch this thing. This is one of those movies that I've probably seen dozens of times and I'm always thoroughly entertained, and I think you will be too. It's essentially the story of this rich man's island paradise that he is going to turn into essentially a dinosaur amusement park. And it's in its like pre-release days, so there are some official scientists who are coming to sort of gauge whether or not this is a good idea. And of course, mayhem ensues once they get there. And the mayhem is so fun to watch. Um, it introduces adults and kids to different kinds and breeds of dinosaurs in a way that's thoroughly accessible. It's not overly sciencey, so you don't understand what's going on, but it's not like dumbed down in any way. It's a very smart action adventure. I mean, honestly, even looking back, I totally understood things as a kid. I understand a little bit more, obviously, as an adult, just because certain words are more familiar than when you're like 7 or 8. But I still recall feeling very, I don't know, sciency when watching it the first time around. And it's just like pure joy on screen. You've got a phenomenal storyline. You've got great twists and turns. You have excellent characters and interpersonal relationships going on with all of these characters. You have like this teeny tiny slide of romance, but you've also got amazing amounts of comedy interspersed with like these harrowing moments. The score is so good. I mean, it's John Williams at his absolute best. So many thrills just heightened from that score. I mean, this is one of those movies that I think will stand for decades and decades as just this phenomenal piece of movie magic. Um, it spawned some mediocre sequels. I would say that the most recent iteration of Jurassic Park films have been like much closer to the first film as far as vibe and energy go. The ones that have Chris Pratt in the and Bryce Dallas Howard in them, I think those definitely feel more like that initial film than Jurassic Park 2 or 3 do. Uh, but I still say, 20 years down the line, that first movie is the absolute best. I don't care how advanced the technology is today. Those animatronic dinosaurs just worked. I mean, I know the CGI was not there at the time, but it just didn't matter. It still was that phenomenally technical piece of work that just surpassed the available technology. So if you've never seen it, if you have seen it, has been and it's been a while, if you want to be able to introduce your kids to something fun and exciting that will get them excited about potentially dinosaurs and history and science, and I cannot recommend the Jurassic Park original film enough. Please do watch it. It's so good. Moving right along from a pick with massive, massive creatures, my next pick is all about teeny tiny animals that are super duper cute, and that is for the film Milo and Otis. Milo and Otis is just one of the sweetest, cutest, most heartwarming movies. It is all about this insanely adorable, super curious kitten named Milo, and his best friend, a pug named Otis. They start their lives on this farm. They have all of these little farmland adventures, and then, due to like some harrowing circumstances, they end up getting separated and they decide that they're going to find each other again. Their friendship and their bond between one another is that strong. So the major crux of the film is them journeying to find one another, and they have to face off against the elements, against other animals, but at the same time, while you have excitement, while you have adventure, it's all very cute, it's all very friendly, it's all very kid friendly, in fact. But at no point does it get too sappy that, as an adult, you'll be like, I can't watch this anymore. Because there are plenty of movies where I felt that way, where I was just like, this is too much cute for me. It never gets to that point. And yes, I do have a bias with teeny tiny cute kittens, but I'm not even talking about that. This is just an adorable film. It is narrated by Dudley Moore, who has this fantastic warm voice. I think there's something about his narration that is what makes this movie so magical. It feels very much like you're in a story time. You're being told a tale around a fire or in a cozy room. And there's something very warm about the smallness of that. Uh, and I still feel that way. I rewatched it for the first time in probably a couple decades, and I don't think I felt much more differently than I did earlier on, simply because that voice kept that same vibe going. So if you're looking for something with plenty of adventure and excitement that doesn't get too scary, too harrowing, too intense, along with narration by someone who will be calming and soothing, and who I think does an incredible job of pulling you into a told spoken story, check out Milo and Otis. It really is such a sweet film, and I think people of all ages will really, really enjoy it. Okay, my next recommendation is actually for a bundle of films, and this is, I guess, my animation adventures. The first of which is Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo, really quickly, is just a beautiful father-son tale. The spin on this, of course, is that the father and son in question are fish. The son is essentially kidnapped, and the father has to figure out a way to rescue him. Of course, things are super duper complicated. Not that they wouldn't be if these were humans, but as they're fish, it's an even more complicated endeavor to rescue this son. You've got phenomenally beautiful animation. I mean, the whole undersea thing is already gorgeous for me, regardless of whether it's live action or animated, but this is just beautifully done. You also have a really surprisingly engaging character performed by Ellen DeGeneres. Dory, I think, is an iconic figure at this point. She has short-term memory issues. She's funny, she's quirky. Even though she is spotty as all get out, she's not annoying. It's just this character is so likable. And I find it weird that she's so likable because normally I would find that kind of character in literature or in film a little bit irritating, but not at all in this feature. So props to DeGeneres for portraying a character that does not get on my nerves despite a whole lot of quirks. Um, she's lovable, and the father character, voiced by Albert Brooks, is adorable. The little boy fish, all the characters they meet. There's this surfer dude, sea turtle. It is just a fantastic, fantastic film. If you've never seen it for whatever reason, you absolutely have to. I don't care if you have kids or not. I watched this movie when I was in my early 20s, I think like my last year of college, and I adored it from the get-go. Makes you run the gamut of emotions because, like all Pixar films, it wants to devastate you and make you happy at the same time. And it succeeded with me at the very least. So yes, Finding Nemo, complex, multi-layered animated father-son story. Excellent, excellent adventure. The second in my animated adventure bundle picks is for A Bug's Life, also a Pixar film, but much earlier in the company's history. It follows that trope of group of characters must quest in order to do something to save their home group or family from an outside aggressive force. That's really, really vague, I know. But that's, in fact, quite a trope that you see all over film, all over literature, whether you're talking about Japanese cinema like Seven Samurai, or you're talking about other animated films like Over the Hedge. That's one of those storylines that you get over and over again. What's wonderful about this one is just the way that the writers put this A Bug's Life together. You have like Angry Ladybug voiced by Dennis Leary, of all people. Like, even as a kid, I think I was familiar enough with the name because he was like a quite large figure in the comedy circuit. I remember my parents conversing about, like, is it okay that he's in this? Because he's not obviously someone known for children's work. But yeah, there's a ladybug voiced by Dennis Leary. You've got Richard Kind playing this dumb yet likable grasshopper. You have you have like a storyline that is full of whimsy and fun, but also action, adventure. There's a group of bugs that have to save a group of circus bugs, in fact, that agree to save an a farm of ants. I guess that's ant farm. That's the term, right? But they agree to save an ant farm from an encroaching, aggressive grasshopper hive. I don't know if grasshoppers have hives. Whatever a group of grasshoppers is called, they're encroaching and going and threatening this ant farm. So the circus bug group goes off and tries to figure out a way to protect this ant farm. It's charming, it's funny as all get out. It is full of adventure and excitement. It's very, very sweet in places. It is just an excellent, excellent film. And I think one of the Pixar stories that sort of gets left behind, everybody knows Toy Story, everybody knows Finding Nemo, everybody knows Up, but I feel like Bug's Life is just not really talked about, and it should be because it is so, so likable. My last animated pick is for not Pixar, but simply Disney's Zootopia. This one was so recent, but I just absolutely adored it. I am floored with how likable the characters are. Um, you have fantastic performances, especially from Jason Bateman, who plays the fox in this. Your basic storyline is you have this little country bumpkin bunny moving to the big Zootopia, Central City, and despite being a bunny, creatures that are usually very mild mannered, they don't like to have big exciting moments in their lives. She wants to be a detective. She wants to be a cop to save people and protect people, and she does just that. And you go on her educational journey with her, and you just see how hard she works, and she's just so likable. And then you have like a polar opposite style character, this slacker, this um low-level criminal, pretty much, played by Jason Bateman, who plays a fox, and it's just the clashing of these two personalities, uh, and it creates this buddy film that I think is so universal. Little kids will love it because, of course, you like the character art is very cute. This set design is very adorable. Um, but I think as adults, you also enjoy it just because it's always fun to watch clashing personalities on screen. I think that's why cop movies, buddy movies, and films like that work so well when you have opposites attract. Not in that way, but just like two opposite personalities put together. I think those are always fun, and this one embodies that whole concept. Um, how the differences make them stronger rather than weaker, and the story of itself about acceptance of others, about self acceptance, I think are so relevant and so important right now. And it doesn't do it in a way that seems preachy. It just is. So if you like message movies, if you want something super duper cute and adorable, if you want something that is funny in places, and that will definitely keep all viewers entertained, check out Zootopia as well. So yeah, this little animated bundle of Finding Nemo, A Bug's Life, and Zootopia, you could do a little movie marathon. I think those would be a perfect trio of films. Watch them on their own, watch them as an adult, watch them with tiny people. Just make sure that you watch these. They're so good and so highly recommended. Okay, for a lovely little father-daughter story, I have picked the movie Fly Away Home. I'd actually forgotten this even existed. It tells the story of a young girl who loses her mother and is sent to live with her estranged father out in the wilds of Canada. They have essentially no relationship whatsoever. They don't know each other. They don't um, really have much in common, but all of that really starts to change when she discovers and starts to mother a little abandoned group of goslings. So they imprint on her. She hatches them and they imprint on her. And in order to avoid certain circumstances, she and her father have to figure out a way to teach these little goslings how to fly so that they can migrate like any wild geese would. Um, and that is the whole crux of the story. The two of them bonding with each other, bonding with the goslings, figuring out how to teach an animal to fly when you yourself obviously are not designed to do that. Um, it is absolutely served, this movie, by the fact that its two leads are played by Anna Paquin, who plays the young girl, Amy, and Jeff Daniels, who plays her father, Thomas. Jeff Daniels, I would watch him in anything. He's so good. I don't like ludicrous comedies, but I've watched Dumb and Dumber so many times simply because I love Jeff Daniels that much. But his more dramatic work is what I'm probably more familiar with, and he's always so solid. Because he can take anything dramatic and imbue it with like a humanity and a sense of humor that makes it feel very full, very rich, very real. And he does exactly that in this film. His character is an inventor, so that certainly helps when it comes to figuring out how to teach your child and your child's goslings how to fly. Uh, And it's just a really sweet, heartfelt movie. Um, it's quite simple. I would say of most of these films, including the animated features, this is probably to me the most like the least complex and least complicated. You've got a pretty simple storyline, and I would say as an adult I enjoyed it less than I did as a child. Uh but that's just me. Again, mileage may vary with that. As far as like sentimental movies go, I'm sort of like odd about things. But yeah, it is lovely, it is sweet, it is heartfelt, and very, very well acted. So if you're looking for something along those lines, something nice, even keeled that kids will definitely enjoy and understand, check out Fly Away Home. It's a very, very sweet film. Okay, my next recommendation is for a film that 100% horse lovers should absolutely see, and that is Hidalgo. I think this is such a gorgeously shot movie. The settings, the visual tone, everything about that technical production aspect pulls you right into the storyline. So Hidalgo is based on a true story about this cowboy named Frank Hopkins, who is an expert horseman. He became very known for long distance horse racing, and at the time of this film, his character is performing in one of those Wild West shows, Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. It's sort of glorifying the old days of the Wild Wild West, um, and he's a very layered character in that he's got a whole lot of backstory going on from the very beginning, and you 100% get that from the very first few scenes. He ends up essentially being recruited to go on like this Middle Eastern race that's known for being more treacherous and harrowing a course than anything in the history of the world. It's supposed to be dangerous and deadly, and uh, the winner is most obviously the greatest horseman alive. Uh, Essentially, Hopkins had been being advertised as such without having this credential. How you have the actual credential of being the best horseman on earth, I don't even know, but I digress. Uh, so the real story comes into play when he begins training for this insanely dangerous race. Um, his horse, Hidalgo, is pretty much his best friend. Like, they've been through thick and thin together, and their relationship is a pretty central character of this story. But you also have some really fascinating external characters. Uh, there's a young woman who's essentially being put up as a prize for this race. You've got um, unscrupulous other racers and horse owners who are willing to do anything to win and for that prestige. You have other competitors who are also simply training for this race. They aren't motivated necessarily by greed, but by the desire to be known as the best. And it's all of that mixed together, and you can feel the heat when you're watching this film, like the characters and the sand, and it's just really, really well shot. Like, even if you're not into, say, like horse movies or things like that, if you like really solid cinematography, phenomenal production, uh really great settings and characters, this is a really solid film that I feel a lot of people have forgotten over the years. Like, I'd totally forgotten about this movie until I started looking for picks for this week, and I'm so happy that I spotted it. It really is fun, it's beautiful, it's exciting. Like I said, the settings are gorgeous, and you 100% feel a part of that world, even if it is only for the hour and a half that the film goes on. You've got a solid storyline loosely based on a true story. And you've got excellent performances. Viggo Mortensen's in here. This is one of Omar Sharif's final films, I want to say. So you've got really, really big personalities playing some major characters, and they do an excellent job. So if you like films like that, if you like horse stories, seriously, if you're a horse lover, this one definitely needs to be on your list. Please, please, please check out Hidalgo. It is amazing. Okay, my very last recommendation is for a lovely but very strange novel called The Tale of Desperaux. Tale of Desperaux is by Kate DiCamillo, and goodness, she has a gift for writing strange yet incredibly engaging stories. Um, Tale of Desperaux is odd. It is very odd. It's about this mouse who loves a human princess and ends up being unfairly imprisoned. I mean, it's weird, but it's so like exciting and oddly gripping in so many ways. You've got really strange but fascinating characters. And that goes for whether characters are human, because you've got this mix of species. You've got mice, you've got like vicious rats, you have humans who have weird and oddly understandable motivations. You have like cruel, monstrous characters, but you also have like these really strong, heartfelt characters as well. And a really, really amazingly weird storyline. I know I keep saying weird, but that's just how I feel when I think about Tale of Desperaux. I really enjoyed this, but I also really like quirky, strange things, so you'll have to take this with a grain of salt. Um, as I mentioned, Desperaux is this teeny tiny mouse who's in love with a human. Obviously, that's generally not the norm. This human is a princess whose name is P. She's sweet, she's lovely, and um, she ends up getting caught up in this dangerous plot with the rats, as well as a servant girl who wants to be princess. Um, all of these like weird separate themes sort of manage to converge into a weirdly cohesive storyline. And if you like things that are a little off kilter, a little bit strange, that play with legend, mythology, um, adventure, excitement, this is definitely a book that I would recommend. I think I didn't read this until I was an adult, and I actually think I get more out of the story as a grown up, because there's definitely stuff that I would have been absolutely glossing over as a kid. That said, I think children have an amazing capacity of just being okay with weird things. Like parts of this story that as an adult make me kind of side eye things, I 100% would just be like, okay, while reading as a kid, just taking it for granted that that's this magical world, this strange magical world. And, I think both sort of experiences are really, really valid, So whether you have a child that you think would like an odd fairy story, or you're an adult who just wants to experience this sort of weird and wacky magical world itself, um, I think this story definitely works. So please check out Tale of Desperaux. I know they made a couple of uh, animated adaptations, which I have not seen, so maybe you would lose some of the weirdness with that. But I think the books are great. I really, really do. So check out Tale of Desperaux. Odd, but absolutely fantastic. Um, so with that, I've gone through all of my recommendations for the week. Um, as always, if you have recommendations of your own that you think we should be watching, any animal focused adventure stories, please, please, please comment with them below. We're always looking for other recommendations. And I'm always happy to find out what other people are watching right now. So with that, I am going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you so much again for watching our special series, Tales of Tales, and look for next week's installment. Bye!